Yes, we are live. All right. We are live and ready to roll, y'all. And we're early, which doesn't always happen. so, so please take advantage of this moment that we're early so that you can share this out with someone. I have a couple of announcements and PSAs that I'm going to give in just a moment. But I'm going to make sure I'm sharing everywhere and that I can see you all. And I'm hoping that you're doing the same. Come on in. I see you coming in. Say hello to us. Let us know that you're here. We would love to know that you're in the room. My name is Trenace Richardson, and I am the founder of Real Women Rock because we do. We exist to create safe spaces for women to do personal development work on themselves. And we do that through sister circles. Before COVID, we were meeting physically in person in the DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and Hampton Roads, Virginia areas on a monthly basis. And we would travel with Real Women on the road across the country and abroad. And it's our goal to continue to establish monthly sister circles across the country and abroad so that no matter where you live, you have access to a safe circle of sisters. Hey, y'all, come on in. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Kia. How are you all doing tonight? So come on in, share this out, let someone know that we're going to be talking about a whole lot of stuff. This has been a wonderful week, but we're going to frame it under the umbrella of conquering fear this year because there's so many reasons why we should be talking about that. But while we're just sharing and letting someone know we're here, please know that this is an interactive conversation. This is not just us talking to each other. We really do want to hear what your thoughts are. I'll be asking you some questions in the chat and aloud. And you've got a hey, Dr. Newby already. All right. I can't wait to talk about that. So
I got my head down. I'm sharing the video out. You go ahead and keep talking.
You got a couple more minutes. And so what we really want to make sure we do is interact with you. So please continue to share this out and let someone know that we're on. The last announcement I have for you is you can go to realwomenrock.org. Again, that's realwomenrock.org to find out more about us, who we are, what we do. We are a 501c3, and we encourage you to sow a wonderful seed into the work that we're doing to help women. And this Saturday, if you want to be a part of one of our sister circles, we are doing virtual sister circles. First one for 2021. And wait for it. The topic is it time for a digital detox? I know you don't want to talk about it, but it's time to talk about it. So I know we right here on social media talking to y'all, right? So at least tune in and see what it's about. We are going to have an amazing sister circle at 11 a.m. Eastern time this coming Saturday. And we really hope that you choose to join us. It is free of charge. And you go to realwomenrock.org to find out more information, or all of our social media platforms at Real Women Rock, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank y'all for being here. So I get the pleasure. She has been with us before, but she is just that good. And we have known each other for most of our adult lives because we just started getting good and grown when we met each other. We thought we were good and grown anyway. In college, we were sweet mates, and Swan, I've told them now that we have had all of our sweet mates up here now, which is
I noticed. Yeah, I was like, we should just have a suite live. Can we do a live with all of us together?
We gotta do a live with our suite. Oh my God, you just did that. Yes. We're going to do a live with our suite. Absolutely. That's done. That's a done deal. Oh, that was so good. Okay, so I have to tell you all that in all sincerity, I know I've heard Swan, and I call her Swan. Her name is Dr. Synetheia Newby. I am going to do it right. I am. I'm going to formally introduce her. But I want to preface it by saying that I've heard you use the term big little sister. And what I appreciate about our relationship is that it is very reciprocal. It is very give and take. And as we both know, like when we need to pour into each other, we can. When we need to help each other out, just a little bit of challenge, we can do that too. Yeah. And so I love the sincerity of our relationship. And I believe true friendship, true sisterhood is not successful, and it's not real unless it's tested. Yeah. And so I'll just say, over years, we have had the opportunity to be really close, have a lot of time together, not see each other for years, not talk for a while, and come back together. So I appreciate you as my sister friend first. Yeah. My soror, my college sweet mate, all of those things. But you are Dr. Synetheia Newby. Leadership strategist, the inventor and creator of the Baku strategy, and you have written a new book. You have written other books. You are a part of book anthologies. You've written your own books, and you are now embarking upon a new book called When the Lioness Leads. And that title just something to me. So I have introduced you formally and informally. Would you say hello to the people before we jump in?
Hey y'all. And please call me Swan. It's, you know, I know my screen name says Dr. Synetheia Newby. You know, it's the professional thing to do. But yeah, because I'm probably gonna call you Nikki before I call you Trinae. So
absolutely. So this is the Nikki and Swan show right now. Swan and Nikki show. Y'all just ignore the names on the screen. I appreciate you being here, and I'd love for you to share what you're doing right now and the work that you're in, because it's really going to tie into, you're doing so many wonderful things, and you have stepped out on faith in so many different ways. Could you talk about kind of where you are now, so that then I can backtrack and say, how you do all of that, and were you scared? Were you scared when you did it?
Scared every day. Yeah. So I am the owner of two businesses now. I am Dr. Newby Global, and I have Greater Works Global Solutions, which used to be Greater Works Consulting Group. And so, as you mentioned, I am a leadership coach. I'm a leadership strategist and trainer. My heart and my passion is around working with leaders. I have really spent the last, God, I'm finna date myself. I have spent the last 15 plus years working with leaders in local government, leaders in the nonprofit sector, and specifically leaders in ministry. And so one of the things that I have really found is that leaders just don't have a space to be human. To just let their hair down, to not have it all together, to not have all the answers. And so for me, it is the reason why my motto in this work that I do is to create safe spaces for leaders to fall, flourish, and fly. And so I do that through coaching. I do that through training, and using a philosophy that I call leading up from the inside out, which really challenges leaders to focus on their personal development, which, you know, that's your specialty suite area as well, and their spiritual development, as well as their skills development. So yeah, that's what I spend my time doing.
Yeah, I love that. First of all, we are both passionate about and in love with the same type of work, and we are able to just kind of bounce off each other, like, come on and help me, like, do this little thing, like talk during my book launch, and you know, it's just a real reciprocal thing. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I happen to be more at the beginning than at the end, but be a part of the leadership and life challenge that you did going into this new year, and it was absolutely amazing. It was like it started on an explosive level with you just creating a safe space right off the bat, and allowing people to be free. And so it takes a lot of guts for you to do that, to share, because what you do, what people may not know is, in order for you to create that leadership safe space,
Yeah.
you have put yourself on Front Street in a lot of different ways, and just talked about lessons learned and all those things. And for your community of leaders that you pour into, you are so very transparent. I don't even know if you mentioned you do a 5 a.m. manna.
I did not.
Yeah,
I do.
During the work week, you all can find her on Instagram. And then I think there's some clips that happen everywhere else on her social media. 5 a.m. manna, where she's pouring out inspirational tips for leadership as well. And with all of that, you're so transparent. Yeah. And so I'm asking you all in the chat to start talking about your fear journey, your fears / faith / courage journey, and answer, are you conquering your fears or allowing them to conquer you? And we're going to talk about that middle ground. And, it's not an absolute one way or the other. I just really want you to begin thinking about your process and your journey with fear as we talk. So Swan, could you share a little bit about how you've been able to accomplish all of that? Like, what does your personal story of fear look like, wherein you've been able to do that in spite of being afraid of whatever?
Yeah, it has been an up and down journey. Mm-hmm. I have started and quit, and started again, and quit again. And for me, much of the up and down has been about my fear of rejection.
Wow.
It has been about, getting started with such momentum, and then getting out there. And because I'm an introvert by nature, I'm an introvert out here in these streets doing extroverted things, right? So my sweet spot is to be in the background and, and just kind of working in that space. And so the more you get out there, especially, on social media, you're front and center.
Yeah.
And it's that fear of, will they like me? Will they be able to embrace what I'm doing? Will they understand my intent and motivation? There's the struggle with, am I being an imposter? Will they think I'm an imposter? Like, how are they going to approve of me? Are they going to give me a check mark? And so, that fear of rejection is something that has walked with me from my childhood into my adulthood. Like, I've struggled with that from my childhood. And so it's a real reminder that as we deal with fear, and I want to be very clear that we're not just talking about healthy fears. I mean, there's certain fears that we have that cognitively our brain just says that's not a safe situation to go into.
Run.
And then it goes away. But I'm talking about a persistent fear that stops you in your track, a persistent fear that holds us hostage. That's the place that I have struggled with the rejection. And so it has created those ups and downs, and even a fear of success. Or as I heard it put in a clubhouse room this morning, the fear of your own power. Right? So then it's not just this fear of, will they like me or not? Will they approve of me? It's also that fear of knowing just how powerful we are, just how powerful the gifts are that God has given us. But oh my gosh, and it's the things that you've seen, like you've seen yourself in these spaces excelling and elevating. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Can I really handle that?
Yeah. Or even, can people around me handle that? Yeah. And will they be okay with me doing more, being more around them? Or because some of us, especially if we're introverted, if we're compassionate toward those around us, we know what makes people around us feel comfortable, and we're willing to be and do what makes people feel comfortable. And so that can keep us, paralyzed, as Kimberly said, paralyzed in fear as well, to move forward. Fear of success, fear of what it looks like to do well around us. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. It looks like some folks have said, for them, it's still doing it with fear, but it's doing it scared. Some folks saying their journey of faith and fear is, sometimes being paralyzed. And so I'd love for you to talk about what issues are caused by fear. And you can go a whole bunch of places with this, go wherever you want to go, because I think about all of the unrest that we've been having lately, and the fact that I believe those who are the most angry right now and the most vengeful are probably the most fearful. They just scared that whatever's theirs, somebody gonna come and take theirs, or and so what are the issues caused by fear? Do you believe that there's a root? And if so, can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh gosh, yes. I think there are a couple of roots. The first one I want to address as you were speaking is that root of uncertainty. I think whenever we are facing uncertain situations where we can't control the outcome and we don't know what the outcome is going to be, it can drive us into a place of fear. And I think for many of us coming out of 2020 into 2021, it is that uncertainty that is perhaps causing us to shrink back or say, well, maybe I won't launch out and do this thing right now because I don't really know what's going to happen with COVID. I don't really know what's going to happen in this situation. Matter of fact, I'm just afraid to be out amongst people. So maybe, and it's crazy because that fear narrative that's rooted in uncertainty is being played over and over again, even in the media. Right. I mean, let's think about the fact that all we hear about is all the cases of people who have COVID and who have died as of COVID. I'm trying to hear the numbers of who survived, because there's a lot of survivors out here in these streets. Right. There's a lot of overcomers. Yes. But we don't get that narrative. The narrative we get is doom and gloom. And so now I move in uncertainty. So I think especially right now, uncertainty is a root of our fear. Yeah. But I also want to pull on 4 roots of fear that Dr. Tim Lancaster talked about in his book, Fear is a Liar.
Ooh, okay.
And he says that there are 4 roots of fear. There's the root of guilt, rejection, shame, and blame. And one of the things that you come to understand psychologically is about fear is that a lot of times fear is rooted in some experience we had in our childhood, especially if it's a trauma. And fear is something that attaches itself to us, and it then walks with us from childhood into our adult lives. Yeah. So if you think about those 4 roots, what Dr. Lancaster is really saying is that if something happened in my childhood and it taught me guilt, it taught me to hide, right? And it often partners up with shame. Then what happens is I have this fear of exposure. This fear of, what if people find out my dirty little secret?
Oh, Lord.
What if they find out the things that I've done and been engaged in, whether in my childhood or in my adult life, right? This is really big around sexual abuse issues, molestation, even decisions that we might make in our early adulthood that were not wise decisions, but we did it out of survival mode, but we don't want nobody to know about it.
Yeah.
Because what would they think?
What blows me about that one, all of them are good, you just talked about, but what blows me about that one is we hide, we isolate, we walk in shame and guilt and all of those things in isolation because we're afraid of what you just said. And what we don't realize is all of us got something. Like all of us got, it may not be the exact same as yours, but all of us got some bones and stuff that if somebody pulled them out, we'd be like, no, don't put it on the screen, please. And so we build this narrative, as you said, that makes it bigger than it is, not realizing that we could free ourselves up. Not anybody and everybody, but I love what you do in your community, because as you share your story, it frees others up to share theirs.
Yes. And that's so powerful. And I think I saw Kia say, speak it loud to release it. And that is one of the strategies for being able to conquer our fears, because what fear does is fear says you got to stay in a place of isolation and secrecy, right? But when I can identify the root of my fear, where it comes from. And I can open up my mouth and share my story. And this is not about whether you share it on a platform with 10,000 people in a room or whether you share it with 10 people in a room. It's just about releasing it, because in the release comes the liberation. And when our liberation comes, then we liberate other people. Because as you said, we all got stuff.
Yeah.
So if I can be transparent and talk about the things that I've been fearful that what are people going to think about me if they knew about that? You know, what would they say about it? Then it liberates somebody else, and it brings us into a place of freedom. And my God, were we not called to live in freedom?
Yes.
We're called to live in freedom.
Absolutely. 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 I need to, I want you to talk about a couple of things as it relates to this, because I termed this or titled this, how to conquer fear.
Yeah.
And I think that even becomes problematic for people, because we feel like we get to this point where we no longer experience fear anymore. We have conquered it, right? And so I want you to ask you, like, do you ever still experience fear? Even though, you know, you're teaching about it and talking about principles and strategies to overcome it. And as someone said, do it scared and move anyway.
Yeah.
Is fear something we ever stop experiencing?
I don't think so, because I think that there's layers to this thing, right? And so I think that we can pull one layer of thing off that makes us fearful. And then underneath it, there could be something else. As we continue to grow, there'll be new weeds that pop up that try and choke us out. Right. So maybe that tier of fear doesn't move me anymore. Maybe rejection doesn't move me anymore. But right now in this season of my life where I'm single and I can't have children, and I have this fear now that I may do life forever by myself. Right.
Yes.
That's real talk. That's my story right now.
I'm with you. I'm
right.
So, you clarifying for everybody else, because you always talk like this with me. So she's serious right now about her fears. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's layers to this thing. So the fear of rejection doesn't move me in the same way at 45, about to be 46. But now it is the notion of, wow, will I ever experience love and doing life in ministry with somebody? Like, will that ever be my experience? And that sense of trepidation that says, maybe I won't. Maybe single is what I'm going to be for the rest of my life.
And the uncertainty goes back to that root, the uncertainty of not knowing.
Keeps
you playing a what if narrative that would, and I love that you shared that, because again, so transparent. And I know some women, even some men can relate to that. But what it says is that's yours at this level after peeling away some layers of the onion. That's where you are right now. And it's such a real place. And maybe somebody's listening who is married, maybe, and let's just do this one. Maybe somebody's listening who's married, and their fear is it going to be like this?
Is it going to right? Is that what this is? That's how we doing life together from now on?
But both are just as valid and just as real.
Right.
So we have to acknowledge that at every level. I love it. And I agree with you. I think it's not something that we ever stop experiencing. The conquering is in moving through it and working through it. So I do have to ask you, I am totally mindful of the fact that we are, as of today, standing with the second highest office in the land, a woman who looks like us, like just really just in that moment. And just imagining, I know with all of my steps forward, every time you say, like you said, every time I do a live, or every time I put a business idea out, or every time I, put a course out and see if anybody's going to bite, all of this. On my level, those are levels of fear that I deal with. And I can only imagine what it's like to be scrutinized by everybody, to be, all of that. So what would your advice be? I have on the screen, how do you deal with fear what is your advice? What do you personally do? And what is your advice to us as we look at people like Kamala and me looking at you and you looking at me? What do we do to deal with fear?
So for me, the first thing I have found that's beneficial, and I also teach this to my coaching clients, is that you got to acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. If you keep pretending like it doesn't exist, it's not there. Mm-hmm. I'm bigger than this. I'm stronger than that, because somehow you feel like it's a weakness because you feel fear. Mm-hmm. Once you acknowledge it, then you can begin to understand, how do I deal with this layer, right? So there's acknowledgement that comes with it. Mm-hmm. The next thing that comes with it that has been really wonderful for me is the interjection of therapy. Right? Because my acknowledgement showed me that my fear was rooted in some things that happened in my childhood. And that's a deep place to go back into, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes because we've lived in a thing, it's hard to plow it and pull up the root because we've been in it. Mm-hmm. But when you get with a therapist, a therapist gonna help you get into that place and properly process it.
Ooh,
because if we don't properly process what we have acknowledged, it'll put us in further bondage. And nobody needs that type of smoke in their life. Right? So there's the acknowledgement, and then there is the digging deeper with therapeutic support. The other thing for me that goes with the therapeutic support is where my faith comes in. So I'm the girl who believes in Jesus and therapy. I think they go together. It wasn't how I was raised in the church, right? I think we're kind of taught that they are mutually exclusive. Like they're just, you can do therapy, but if you do Jesus, then you got to pray about it. And then prayer is just what's going to fix it. And so you can't do therapy, but they go together, right? So my therapist helps me to dig deeper. And when it's unearthed and she's helping me to process it through, then I can take that thing into prayer.
That's good.
And say, God, this thing, it hurts. This is a wound. Heal me. Deliver me. Bring me into the place of freedom that you've called us all to live in, right? So I bring my faith into it. Then the other thing that I do practically is when that fear rises up and you can feel it, right? Either your chest starts, heaving, or your heart is racing, or you feel the lump in your throat, is you take a breath and you show up anyway. This is really big for those of us who struggle with anxiety. One of the things they will teach you as a strategy for anxiety, and anxiety is like one of fear's ugly little cousins that shows up, is they'll tell you to breathe. Focus on your breathing. And you can appreciate this because you do yoga, right? And they teach you about focusing on the breath, right? And so because breathing is powerful. If you can get your breathing under control and focus on the breathing as opposed to the thing that's making you feel, that's making your heart race right now, you can bring your anxiety levels down just through your breath.
Yeah, you gotta let me jump in. This is so good. I'm excited because most of us, literally right now, I bet you, if I asked you to just check out where your shoulders are, most of us could bring down our shoulders like at least an inch because we live and exist like this. And we live and exist in shallow breaths and short breaths. And that's how that's our modus operandi. That's how we operate because we're always worried, always moving, always doing. We just talked about this earlier. We're always doing so much. And so because of that, we don't take deep breaths and slow down. And some of our fear and anxiety, we would take the edge off just a little bit if we would just breathe.
Just breathe.
Everything you already said. I love it.
Like legit, my affirmation that I have to say to myself sometime, or my declaration, shall I say, I have to say to myself sometime is, Synetheia, just breathe. Like when I feel the shoulders going up like this, and I can feel it. I can feel the pressure in my neck. I feel the tension in my body. And I'll say, Synetheia, just breathe.
Yes.
Right. And so I think it's important for us to learn how to just breathe. The show up can get easier if we just learn how to just breathe. I think the other thing that I have learned that has helped me in dealing with fear has everything to do, Nikki, with how I take care of myself.
That's good. Yeah.
I notice that when I am not mindful of my nutrition, Giving my body proper exercise. When I am not mindful of my mental health and taking good care of myself mentally and emotionally, I find that I am more vulnerable to fear because I'm tired.
Yes.
And a striking point and a tremendous area of vulnerability for us is when we are tired. And I'm not just talking about physically tired.
Yep.
When you are tired emotionally, mentally, and in your soul, you just tired.
That's good.
It makes us more open for fear to come in, because fear is an evil force.
Yes, it is.
It's an evil force. If you want to call it a demonic force, whatever title you want to give to it, it ain't good.
Yeah.
We ain't supposed to have it. So any place that's a weakness for us becomes a vulnerability. Yeah. And it's easy for it to seep in. So those steps for me have been so helpful, and I found them to be helpful with my coaching clients as well.
Yeah, so good. So good. And you've gotten a lot of amens in here as it relates to refocusing and all of your tips. I've put them all out there because I just think it's so important. I would love for you to share a little bit about your work, because most of the folks who tune in, sneak in, watch the replay, all of those things, they're either in our community already or checking us out. And I dare say, when I get feedback and everything, these are women and men who are current leaders or aspiring leaders, because I think you and I have talked about this on lives and in conversations past, that, we're in agreement that leadership is really just all about influence. And so on some level, we are all influencers. And we may want to influence on a larger scale, influence in a new area, dig deeper with that impact. But regardless, we are influencers. And so you have acknowledged that about people and provided opportunities to pour into them and to allow them to share their stories. Yeah. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 areas of work, or 4 really. There's speaking, there's coaching, there's strategy level work that I do, and there's training. So with speaking, really seizing opportunities like tonight, to be able to come into spaces to just have formal and informal conversations. So whether I'm the keynote speaker on a leadership platform or whether we're in a more informal setting, seizing the opportunities to just have real conversations that meet people where they are at. I think that is so important for leaders, because I think so often, especially for those of us in positions of leadership, we just have to be. We got to show up and we got to be and we got to do. And often we don't have the informal spaces like now where we can just talk and we know that the speaker can truly identify with us. And I think for me, I love the speaking piece because you're looking at someone who has worked in local government sector for almost 15 years, in the nonprofit sector and in ministry for 18 years. In leadership roles. Right. So you're not looking at somebody who just went to school. By the way, my doctorate is in strategic leadership and my training area is leadership coaching. But in real time, I have walked out this leadership walk. So speaking is so powerful for me. But the coaching, I love the coaching because right now I've done it on an individual basis. And that's what that safe space is about. Because I coach men and women. And when they come into the space, of course, the first time they come in, they're skeptical. It's like, can I really get naked and unashamed with you? And will you really understand me?
Naked.
Can I get naked and unashamed with you? And you still respect me afterwards in whatever my role is.
And I gotta pause you, because that is the issue, right? The issue is because we have our Real Women Sister Circles, but the reason why I started Leading with Soul for women leaders, same vibe and spirit both of us have, is that we would get into these sister circles and some women would worry about the fact that their subordinates were in there or their church members were in there or, that kind of thing. And so they needed to feel like, I need to process my development, both personally and professionally, leadership wise, in a safe space. So yeah, go ahead.
That is so essential for leaders. I mean, Nikki, I have coached a judge who's on the bench right now. I have coached district attorneys. I have coached city managers and assistant city managers, people who are in front of other people. They can't afford to show their humanity. So I love coaching. And let's not even talk about the entrepreneurial leaders that I work with. I mean, I work with some really dope entrepreneurs who are out in the forefront. But they need that space. And I love being able to create that for them because it gives them safety. So they can come in and do exactly what the motto says: fall, flourish, fly. And I'm still going to respect you as the honorable whatever. I'm still gonna, respect you as Madam Vice President. You know what I mean? It doesn't change. And I think that's so important because just because we struggle as leaders, it doesn't mean it changes our calling and our purpose as a leader.
That is so good. And just to loop that back, because I know you still have another area to talk about that you're doing, but to loop that back to our topic of fear, it's easier for us to operate and take risks and do things when we have somewhere in our back pocket, in our corner, a safe space we can go. It's like I see us like in a boxing ring, and we're able to come out and box and do life and do leadership and do all the things we got to do because we go back in the corner and there's somebody saying, all right, you got this. Don't worry about it. Here, let me clean you up a little bit. Don't worry about it. And then push you back out there to do it again. So I love that. Thank you.
And that's powerful. That's powerful for me to be able to create that type of safe space for leaders because it's so needed. The other part of what I do with strategy is really coming into organizations that say, we don't really have anything in place for leaders. We don't have a leadership development program in place. We don't have leadership coaching. What is that? For a locality a couple of years ago, I did a full assessment for them to determine their readiness for leadership coaching, to develop a program. And so that's so important as well. And then the last arm of it is the training. And that's really the skills development, which we see on the forefront all the time with leaders, right? Go to the Leadership Institute, go to this week-long leadership, and they teach you all these skills. Skills are good, but they profit you little without focusing on your personal and spiritual development, because you can have all the skills. I can teach you how to delegate. I can teach you how to build a team. I can teach you about change management. But if there is something in you personally that could compromise your ability to execute that in a healthy relationship with your followers, then I've given you the skills in vain.
They say, I'm going to mess it up, but your talents, your skills will take you there, but your character will keep you there. Absolutely. This time flies by.
I know. 30 minutes is gone. And we started early.
It is designed to be a sneak peek into a real conversation with real women, because we want to titillate your eardrums in such a way that you will join us in a sister circle, especially women, that you'll join us in a sister circle. We have one coming up this Saturday that we would love to have you come join us. But as we close, I would love for you to talk about, because I'm hoping you were working your way around to it, for especially since this topic is fear. There are a lot of women who are watching live now or will watch the replay, and they know they have in them either the story already or it is generating and germinating inside of them, and they are afraid to put it out there in the world. And so I'd love you to talk about your book project just a little bit.
I am super excited about this book anthology project I am working on. It is called The Lioness Leads. And it is a book anthology that's going to include stories from 16 dynamic, powerful women in leadership who are overcoming fear. And they are doing it through their boldness, their authenticity, their courage, and an unapologetic mindset, right? So what I love about this project is because there's so many aspects of our life story we can share as women in leadership, but I'm going to be asking women to think about one of the most pivotal moments in their life that happened for them, that impacted their leadership.
Yeah.
And it caused them to be in a place of fear. But they made the critical decision that I'm going to show up in boldness. I'm going to show up in my authentic self. I'm not going to compromise who I am. I'm going to show up courageously. Yes, fear, I see you, but I'm still going to show up. And I have an unapologetic attitude about it. And we're going to ask women to share this story with other women in leadership because we need it. We need to know that there are women who have overcome whatever layer of fear we might be struggling with right now. We need to know that we can still be strong women in leadership and still walk through fear and overcome it piece by piece. And so we are still in the hunt for 16 women.
Yes.
And the story of the lioness is so powerful because, you know, the lioness is really the leader of the pride.
Tell it now. Come on.
The lioness is the defender, the protector, the provider, the teacher, the trainer, the nurturer. It's the lioness, and they work together in community. To help undergird the work of the pride. So while the lion, you know, is out keeping a watchful eye or over there taking a nap in the brush, it's the lioness who spots the prey and say, my babies need to be fed.
Tell it.
I need to get this contract for my business. And slow walks the prey.
Yes.
And attacks the prey, takes it by its jugular and drags it back to nourish the pride.
Wow.
And it's amazing because the lioness goes out and sometimes she wins and sometimes she don't. And she has scars on her, but you know what? She keeps showing up for the battle. And that's what the Lioness Leads is all about. It's about those of us who are women in leadership and we roar. We are lioness. So I'm in the hunt for these 16 women. And so if you say, you know what, Synetheia, I want to share my story. I got a story. I need to share my story. Or if you say, Synetheia, you know what? I've been afraid to share my story. I've been afraid to write the whole book, but I can write a chapter in a book.
Right. And I don't know the whole process of how you do all of that, but I can tell you my story, right?
I can tell you my story. And the process, we make it so easy for you because we have a really dope publishing company. One of your girls that I've met in Real Women.
Purpose Publishing.
Yes, Purpose Publishing with Miss Siobhan Carter, right? The dopest publisher ever. Takes on all the work. That's what makes this process so beautiful is that you don't have to do it by yourself. We're going to build this book anthology together. So if you say, you know what, Synetheia, I want in, I need you to go over to the lionessleads.com. The lionessleads.com. And I need you to fill out the interest form. I want you to click on the button that says, let's go. And it's a simple application interest form to fill out. You have until January 31st, but I don't want you to delay. If it's already boosted right now in your spirit and you like, that's me, she talking to me, I need you to go over there right now and go ahead and fill out that interest form.
Girl,
This book is going to be amazing. I'm trying to tell you.
I am fixing. I do know how to spell, y'all. That it's not a problem. I really do. But I just got too excited, I promise. And so the lionessleads.com is what we want. And so I want you all to just know right now that nothing happens until you take a breath, as she said, and do it anyway. So move, just go and talk about it with her. Just Have a conversation. If you've been seeing folks writing this year, last year, and you're like, that's supposed to be me, do it. This is about literally conquering, overcoming, passing through and passing over your fears and doing something different in 2021 than you've ever done before. And so the Lioness Leads, I think I got it right this time. TheLionessLeads.com.
That's it.
Please go there. I found the website. So I know you can go there and apply now. Yep. This has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be able to do this. And if anybody wants to connect with me across all social media channels, I am Dr. Newby. IAMDRNEWBY across all social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and come hang out with me for 5 a.m. Manna. That's where we really work on our spiritual development. I'm a Jesus girl, so it's a focus on Christianity. Just be very clear so you don't get there and be shocked and be like, oh, Lord, she's talking about Jesus. Yes, we talk about Jesus. So
yes. And unashamedly. I love
it. Unashamedly so.
Right. Yeah, Val, it's interesting. We had a little weird comment, but wonderful. And so it was funny. I love for trolls. Yeah, right. Somebody got to do. So much for joining us because it is, you're welcome here anytime.
Thank you.
I enjoy this, and we are going to do our Sweet Mates. We are going to get that on the books really soon. That is going to be hilarious. It's going to be really good.
I'm excited and I'm nervous at the same time.
Yeah, right?
It ain't no telling what's going to happen because if the conversations look like anything of what we used to have just sitting in the hallway outside of our rooms, my God.
Really scary. So we're going to let that happen and see how it goes. Thank you all so much for joining us. This has been another sneak peek into a real conversation with real women. We are here every Thursday night at 8 p.m. that we have a guest. And we just have a real conversation and interact with you. We are on Facebook as well as YouTube Live. So please share this out with someone so that they can enjoy the replay. And we look forward to seeing you next Thursday. And hopefully this Saturday, come and join us at 11 a.m. Go to realwomenrock.org to join us. Thank you, Swan.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. See you later. Bye-bye.